Today I'm going to take a look at this FMS PA18 Super Cub 1700mm from FMS models. Honestly, I've had my eyes on this one for quite a while because I really like Cub RC airplanes. So I mean, I have the E-Flight clipped wing Cub 1.2 meter. I have the FMS J3 Cub, the 1400mm. I also have the Hobby King Swiss J3 Cub at 1400mm, and I also, at least I had the Carbon Cub S2, and also from Arrows. So I've tried many different Cubs and I really like the shape of them. And this is a Super Cub, so it's a little bit different than the others. And it's also the largest and heaviest RC airplane I've purchased so far. It's also really featured RC airplane, so there are vortex generator on the leading edge, there are flaps, there are also LED lights, so there are landing lights on this wing, and then there are position lights on the wing tips. It does feature really nicely articulated landing gears with these really stiff springs and these large 6.25 bush wheels as well. And this is a four-cell RC airplane. So I think the specification called for 2200 milliamp battery. But open this hatch, there's no magnet, but there is like this locking mechanism. There's a really huge space inside to put the battery. So I mean, I suppose anything from 2200 would be no problem, but I think 3200 or 4000, everything will fit. And I don't think, as this one is so heavy, that the battery will influence the flying of the RC airplane, because this is more than 2 kilos. So I mean, I don't think that the battery will influence it. This one does also come with the reflex gyro version 2, so you can reprogram the gyro. So it's already mounted inside. So what you have to do is to hook up your receiver, and I opted to have a Spektrum 620 receiver, which is a really nice one. I think the ESC, the speed control in this one is like 40 or 45 amp. As this one does also come with floats. And with floats, I think you will benefit having a reverse-enabled ESC. So, I mean, I would really like to put one of my Avian 45 amp ESCs in this one if I can do it. I mean, the build was really super easy. You have like 2 screws for each wing half. And the great thing about when you put this one together, you have, except for the receiver, which you have to connect from the gyro inside, you have no other cables to attach. So there is a kind of a 4-pin quick connector inside between the wing and the fuse on each side. So I mean, just put the wing spar in, and then you carefully just align this one and put it all the way in. And there are 2 screws to secure the wing. There's 1 screw to secure the wing strut, and you have to click these strut braces into place. And then on the rear section, the rudder is of course already mounted with the servo and everything. So these elevator pieces, you have like 2 screws on each side. There's also a spar, so it's a really solid one. And then you have to use a special tool just to connect the linkage to the servo horn. And of course the spinner and the landing gears. Then the landing gears are super solid, so you have like 8 screws to assemble them. So I mean, all in all, it couldn't be really simpler to put this one together. And I believe the floats is also really similar to the floats you get for the FMS Super Ease or the FMS Ranger, for instance. I think they are also very similar to the FMS Kingfisher. So it's a great package, everything is included, and floats works just great on snow as well as on water. So I mean, I'm just really interested to fly this one because I have a thing for these Cubs, and I don't know what to expect because it is a really large and heavy RC airplane. So it's going to be one interesting experience to fly this FMS Super Cub. So let's go outside and do a flight on this one. Let's find the startup point and kick in the landing flaps and get this one going. I had a few flights prior to this one, And I've experimented with flaps a bit, so I mean I don't have the perfect setting yet, but it does, you know, fly really slow and nice, even with this not the perfect setting of the flaps. So let's remove the flaps then and do a few aerobatic moves. I mean, it's not a snappy RC airplane when you do rolls, but at the same time, I mean, it's no problem to doing these aerobatic moves. So there's just enough power to comfortably go through them. And I put a 2200 milliamp battery inside this one, and I set a timer for 5 minutes, which is fine as long as you don't push it all the 5 minutes. Then I think it will be just fine. And it glides really well, this Super Cub. It's a fun one to fly low and slow with. And it's super rock steady in the air. It's a really interesting feeling to fly this one if you compare to smaller, like 1.2 models, because they are, I mean, they're a little bit easy to over control. But this one, you know, even if I am a little bit more aggressive, it responds in a good and really gentle way. And I mean, to get this one down is also really easy. And when I'm flying this low and slow, I know I'm really comfortable with an RC airplane. And when I need to push the power to go through an aerobatic move, it responds really well. I mean, it's not a powerhouse, but it has no problem going through these things. A really well controlled wing over. And for being such a large and heavy RC airplane, it glides fantastic. Really easy. So let's do a touch and go landing again then. Just have to turn around. So I mean, the landing springs are kind of stiff, which they might loosen up over time, but I don't expect any damage to happen to them, as this is like a super beefy landing gear. So I don't expect it to bend or to do anything. Maybe it will bounce a bit on landings if you do it too stiff, because these wheels are stiff. But when I need the power, then just push it, and then just push it again to go through the roll. Really, really excellent controlled RC airplane. And then you just kill the throttle and it glides super nice. So landing flaps then, let's go in for another landing. I mean, it does sound a little bit hard when it you know, plops down on the surface, but I expect this one to last really well. So, I mean, you can certainly, it doesn't sound too pretty, but the plane can really take it. And then just go from, you know, slow and gentle to push it through a few moves. It's really fun. And then just glide again. So it doesn't require much power to fly. That is something I really like. So there are RC airplanes which require much power to fly, but this one, I mean, this size, I would have imagined that 6S would be the right choice, but 4S seems to be working just fine. And I have no worries flying low and slow. Doesn't have any really bad stall tendency when you turn either, even though I banking quite a lot. Just remembering to keep speed up. Okay, so let's do another touch and go then. Touch and bounce more. So this is a super fantastic flying RS airplane.
Time remaining 1 minute.
It's so rewarding flying something that is rock steady and just does what you want it to do. So let's get it down then for the final landing and make this smooth as possible. So well, it appears I did miss to put in the wings strut braces, but I mean, I really dig this flight. It was a great flying RS airplane, a great moment to get this one up in the air. I'm really glad I purchased this FMS Super Cub 1700mm RS airplane. I just had a really fun time flying this RS airplane, and I didn't know what to expect either. So, I mean, this is by far the largest and heaviest RS airplane I've flown. And I mean, again, to some people, you know, 1.7 is like a kind of a small RS airplane, but to me this is the largest and heaviest one. So it just flies super great, fantastic. It's so rock solid in the air. It was so extremely easy to take off. I think the springs on the landing gears, they are really stiff, so of course if you have like a hard landing it will bounce. But I have a really difficult problem to see these landing gears actually go broke, you know, in some area, because they are just so rock solid. And to put this one together with the, you know, like 2 screws for each wing half and then one for the strut as well. I mean, and the rear stabilizer is so simple and easy to do. So, I mean, everything from assembled to flying this one, it's just a fantastic RS airplane. So I put in a really simple receiver in this one, the AR620 receiver from Spektrum, and I used the included gyro. But as this one is so rock solid, I mean, to have the self-level stabilized mode is really overkill. Of course you can use it on landings, but I think as long as you have enough runway, because this one does really float, I think you will have no problem getting this one down. And I think it just looks maybe not too great when you look in person, because you know there are no clear canopy windows. But when you fly it, I think it just looks fantastic. And also the thing is, I mean, I didn't know how to expect this one to fly, because it is a quite large RS airplane, and it's only a 4S. So for this size, we might have expected like 6S. But even with 4S, it's just no problem to do aerobatics. Of course, it's not a snappy RS airplane, and the limited amounts of aerobatics I do, this one just does with ease. You know, stall turns, super easy to do. It rolls, you know, quite okay, easy to do loops, and so really predictable RS airplane. I mean, it's really difficult to find anything wrong with this RS airplane. It's just, I think it's just a fantastic one. Of course, it's quite large, so to transport this one, I did remove the wings at first, and then I reassembled them at the flying field. And when I did, I actually forgot to hook up these strut braces. So, but I mean, even without these in place, it just flew well. So that is something I have to be careful about next time when I fly this one. And it was time to go home. I just removed one of the wings, so only 3 screws, and then I could easily fit this one in the backseat of my car. So I mean, not too large really, considering it's a 1.7 meter RS airplane. I mean, I've flown quite many Cubs now, so I could of course compare this one to other Cubs I have. And kind of my favorite Cub, or 2 of my favorite Cubs, are actually first of the E-flite clip wing Cub, the 1.2 meter. I think it's a really great looking, fantastic flying, but the landing gears, you know, they are not the best really. And then we have the FMS J3 Cub, the 1400mm, also an FMS RS airplane, and it's just super great. It's so agile and fun on 3S. So I mean, it's really difficult to actually to place this one, because this one flies much different than the other, 1.2, 1.4. This is much more steady when you fly this one, than the 1.2, 1.4 meter RC airplanes. Although I think the 1.4 FMS J3 Cub just flies fantastic, and it's also more agile than this one. But it was so really relaxing to fly this RC airplane, and you have this really large place inside. So I opted just to do the 2200 milliamp 4S battery in this one. I tried both 30C and 50C. But I mean, there's ample room inside to at least fit a 3200, so I will certainly come back to this one and fly a 3200. And I would really like to put an avian ESC in this one to enable reversing if I want to fly this on floats. But I'm not really sure if I use the included reflex gyro or if I just should bypass the gyro and go by the 620 by itself. But it would really be interesting to get a reversing if you fly this on floats. So, I mean, it's just a fantastic one. I know this one has been around for a while, but if you're looking for 1.7 meter wingspan RC airplane, I don't think you will be disappointed with this one, because it just flies great. The only problem I had was to get a nice flap to elevator mix, because I did the usual 10% mix for half flaps and 20% elevator mix for full flaps. But I just got so severe ballooning, so I reduced the flap rate and increased the elevator mix. So I mean, I did quite okay, but I didn't slow down as much as I would like. So I'll have to experiment more with the flap setting on this one. So, but that's the only negative, or actually not negative, just something I have to figure out. But I mean, I'm super impressed with this FMS Super Cub 1700mm. I think it's just a fantastic flying RC airplane.